Hi, welcome to my project number 2 update. I've begun developing my website, so here it is. I've included the vision so far. This also includes my proposal that I submitted and my design implementation as the subpages. You'll also see that I have a user testing page. I conducted a user testing using some of my cohort members in my other class, and there I had them use my forum of Draw.io to develop concept maps of their own. They did a really good job. There were some issues with navigating the system at first. I really didn't give them any prior instructions other than having them develop a concept map on problem-based learning. Each of the students in my cohort have taken a problem-based learning class, so I provided them with an article. It's called, it was by Azar. It just gives them the tips of problem-based learning. I was hoping that it served as a way to refresh their memory so they can enhance their concept maps. So what I did was have them first develop concept maps of their own, which can be seen in my website, on my website, but it can also be seen, I made a PowerPoint which included their designs, which is right here. So here's independent one. Independent one, interdependent and high interdependence, refers to the various types of methods in which the groups or not group work together. So independent meant that one person made a concept map of their own. I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it. The person that made a concept map of their own did a really phenomenal job. He actually, what happened here is the circles with just one circle frame represent his previous knowledge before being given the article, the Azar article. After the Azar article was distributed, I asked them to then enhance their concept maps and to distinguish the difference between the enhanced concept maps, or the concept gains, and the previous knowledge. I had them use the two circle frame to distinguish and delineate this difference. So he enhanced his concept map by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nodes. That's what these circles are called. Then I had groups work on interdependence. This meant that groups worked together. In the previous study that I'm building my study off of, interdependence meant that group members worked together during the problem, but then after each condition, meaning after they worked on the problem solution, they were given a comprehension assessment. There were 3 comprehension assessments, 3 problems distributed, and each represented a type of instructional method. One was independent, as I just showed you before. This is interdependent, meaning their grades weren't weighted on the comprehension assessment. They each contributed to the problem solution itself, but when given a comprehension assessment, they each took their own comprehension assessment and received their grade earned. So to replicate this condition, I just had 2 of the cohort members work together, and that's it. For interdependence, meaning groups worked on a problem together in groups, just like the interdependent model. Then they took a comprehension assessment. They received a score. Each score was average with each of their group members. They didn't, each group member wasn't told like what their initial score was. They were just given the average group grade. This was intended to foster positive interdependence between the group members, meaning, if all of our grades are weighted, they're going to ensure that everybody knows all of the material when developing the problem solution and when studying. And in doing so, there's no free riders hanging around. They're making sure everybody's involved with conversation. And this is hopefully going to better performance on the problem solution and the comprehension assessments. Now, in Manente's study, this wasn't necessarily the result of the comprehension assessment, but they did well on the problem solutions more than the individual condition, at least. So for the pilot study purposes, I just worked with another individual from my cohort. Since I've been exhausting the research, I figured this would hopefully kind of display that I had a lot had more knowledge than everybody else. Not trying to be cocky or anything, but since I've been so involved with this research, it's all fresh in my mind. So I was able to help this individual make that concept map, thus representing the third condition of everybody's grades being weighted together. So I don't really care about the comp assessment for the purposes of this pilot study. I just wanted to know how groups develop their maps, how groups work together, and how these could be evaluated, essentially. So you can see that this map has like these large connectors overlapping. They also have, more built upon knowledge representing the interdependence group. This one doesn't have links connecting each node. Again, the nodes are the circles. And the individual one does, but the individual one does not have as many knowledge gains, meaning double bordered bubbles or nodes, in comparison to the group that worked together with me in it, representing the interdependent group. So I wanted these differences to be made just for the purpose of evaluating how these would be evaluated. So this is how I did so. I also wanted to determine if Draw.io was an appropriate user, more importantly for this class, determine if Draw.io was an appropriate forum. It seemed like some people got a little bit frustrated when doing this, but that's because I didn't give them any prior teaching. I just asked them to go. I told them what tools to use to represent and delineate between like previous knowledge and knowledge gains. But other than that, I didn't give them much guidance as to like using arrows for linking concepts or just lines for linking concepts. That's all I did, just to see how much information, how much of instructional time I would need to provide students, and if any, when using this forum. So I learned that I do need to provide information on how to develop a concept map, what these links actually mean, and how these should be structured when my groups eventually work together. So I did make a screencast for this, and there you go. Which we're not going to revisit now because it's too long. But for the most part, it's important for you to realize that this is like the general idea of a concept map. You have a general concept in the middle, you have concept A, concept B, you can add concept C and D and E and F and however many you want, and then a less general concept. Linking words connect the main concept to concept B, or linking words. Linking words are things like, problem-based learning fosters collaborative group work. Collaborative group work consists of, small groups. Collaborative group work, and maybe somebody might say, is 3 to 4 group members, and extend off of that over here. So that's how a concept map is made. In my tutorial for concept mapping, I did present users with how to develop a concept map of their own by modeling one for them based off of the article that I had discussed before, which used concept mapping in higher education. I learned from the pilot study that I need to incorporate, almost like a key when students use Draw.io. I need to make things very specific so that it's easy for them to use the program and they can focus on the information. So I want them just to use, I think, about 4 keys. Identify the most concept at the top of the map. That's rule 1. Then you want to identify specific concepts and then relate to the general concept using these arrows right here. You want to tie the general and specific concept together with linking words in the same fashion. That would be using this arrow right here. Then you want to look across for linking between domains. And you could just use these arrows or plain line for the purposes of linking, just like this example did. So this would be linking. Those are usually done after students develop their initial concept map. So that's what I learned from my user testing. I thought it was super helpful. It was great to get my peers' feedback. It was great to know what I need to be taught. It was through the research I determined, not my research pilot study, but like previous research has determined that it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to teach undergraduate students what a concept map is and refresh their memory, because in the past they've probably been taught what it is, but to make it more specific to this context, it's important to still teach them, taking about 20 minutes out of class. Then I figured another additional 20 minutes of class can be dedicated to teaching students how to use the program, or 15 minutes because that's how long my screencast is. And then students will have a take-home assignment in which they develop their own concept map model using a model. I'm just going to replicate a concept map that I drew in order to become familiar with the technology. After that, then I'm going to have students refer back to a problem-based learning article I had given them earlier and develop a concept map of their own. This will all be done at home, so users have an opportunity to experiment with the technology itself, take the time that they need to develop these, so that when they come to class to engage in the problem solutions, they can do so with ease. That's all for my mini, my project number 2 update. Thanks.